there's very much defined levels on Bitcoin. So for me, this was the line in the sand that I talked about. Even maybe when we talked last, we were talking about this 31-ish level. If we get above that, then I think that's the culmination saying that, okay, this is a new bull market. But as long as we stay below this level, which was rejected multiple times, then I think for me, at least, I'm in the camp that this is a bear market rally versus a bull market, new bull market. For me, I would tend to look at trend lines and going to trend line analysis. And I mean, if we talk next bull market, we're talking fully regulated. Everyone is singing Kumbaya, even the SEC, which seems unlikely, but I think it will eventually happen. And I think that you have institutions like BlackRock and hedge funds and pension funds. They're all moving into Bitcoin as part of their portfolio. It's going to be considered part of the diversified portfolio. Having said that, I think what you do is you take this trend line here from the high of 17 to the highs of the 2021 market, and you start looking and saying, okay, that might be a good target price of where price could go. So if we just go like this, and I can extend this out a little bit more, we could potentially be looking at the next cycle high. The next bull market high right now is around 90,000, but I think very likely by that time, this line is a little higher. It's upsloping, so it's probably around 100,000 at that point.
Despite gains, BTC remains below $26,000 due to angst over the delayed BTC-Spot ETF market decision. ETH falls short of $1,650 for the first time since March, despite support from dip buyers. The SEC v. Coinbase case takes center stage. A ruling granting the motion to dismiss could force the SEC to settle with Ripple. Former SEC Chair Spot Bitcoin ETF approval is inevitable. Former SEC Chair Jay Clayton believes the approval of a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, ETF, is inevitable. Clayton emphasized the widespread desire for retail and institutional investors to access Bitcoin. Notably, trusted providers with fiduciary duties are eager to offer this product to the public. While Clayton did not confirm his personal stance on approving a spot Bitcoin ETF, he highlighted that the distinction between futures and cash products cannot persist indefinitely. The SEC has yet to approve a spot Bitcoin ETF, but a recent court ruling in favor of Grayscale Investments may signal a shift in this direction. Let's continue our discussion with Gareth Soloway.
The stock market that's had a tremendous run since October of last year. It's starting to show cracks though, right? Apple missed earnings or they fell on earnings. Nvidia's kind of been holding up the market, you could argue. Microsoft's kind of rolled over. We've seen Bitcoin and crypto start to kind of come down off of its recent run. And so these are things that I do pay attention to, and it's a momentum that's stalling out, and eventually you run out of buyers, right? So at some point you have to have a correction. The question is it still within the bear market or is it a bull market? And that's really what we're trying to figure out. Now, you know, when I look at the charts, I look at history. History is really what gives me my basis. And if we go back to past cycles on Bitcoin, it wasn't unusual to see a 100% or more bounce in Bitcoin, even within a bear market. So it makes me a little skeptical. I also think that price action is one of the best indicators. And what we can see here is this was the BlackRock spot ETF news, and it had a big move, and it couldn't break out above this 32,000 level. We then got the news on Ripple winning the case or predominantly winning the case against the SEC. It stalled and couldn't break out. We then just recently got the news on GBTC, the judge found in their favor, and it popped, and we've done a full retrace already. So to me, when I view that, it's price action, and it's telling me that the bounces or the pops are getting sold into still, and that's a warning sign, at least in the near term. So there's bull markets within bear markets. There's what we would refer to as micro bulls within a macro bear, the macro being the big, micro being the bull. And so there's no doubt that we've been in a micro bull market with a low, higher low, higher low. And even here, we still haven't taken out this low yet on Bitcoin. So you could still technically say it's a higher low if we turn around here. So that, in terms of technicals, this is something, a huge thing that I'm watching is, do we take out this 24,800 to 900 level and actually make a lower low? Now, if we flip over to the Ethereum chart real quick, one of the things to note is that Ethereum did make a lower low. Here's your last low, and here's a lower low. So we see that as you go further up the risk curve, meaning that Ethereum is riskier than Bitcoin, you know, Polygon, Solana, and the rest are riskier. They've made lower and lower points versus Bitcoin is still barely, but it is holding on to those higher lows in the market. So it is interesting to see that. We had this little bearish flag pattern, which then ultimately failed, and we saw a beautiful pop on the back of that news. Now, the fact that we've come back in and retraced is not a good thing, right? Generally, after a pop, you look for sideways consolidation, which is known as bull flagging. It's essentially building energy before the next move. When you come down like this, it tells me we're likely going lower. So in the charts, it tells me 24,800, 25,000 is your next support level. If that can hold, we want to see it bounce and start to kind of bounce up and make new short-term higher highs again. If that fails, then you're headed to 20,000. And if that fails, then we're heading back to 15.7, 15.6 area. So right now, as a technician, and I think this is important to say, is that you have to stay kind of neutral. Whatever the chart's telling you, that's the direction you go. You have to respect support. So I respect 25,000, but if it breaks, then right away I go to that next target of 20,000 as a target price on Bitcoin. The news we've seen, and I want to be clear for everyone watching, is the news is fundamentally really good for crypto and Bitcoin, right? So these are wins for Bitcoin and crypto overall. They don't change the short-term fear and greed factors, which are what technicals are. So technicals will give you the short-term move. Wins like we're seeing with the SEC give us the fundamental backdrop of the strengthening crypto market. And so once we get through this and we do get firm regulation and we know what is a security, what's not, what are these regulators are asking for, how is Bitcoin going to be regulated, if at all, and then is it become an asset that, pension funds hold on their investment sheets. So these are all things that, whether it's 6 months or 12 months or 18 or 24, those will be really good drivers of the next bull market. But in the short term, there's this disenchantment with Bitcoin and crypto where people honestly, every time they're buying these pops on this good news, they're getting burned. And so there's this almost like a kid touching a hot stove where you touch it once, ow, you touch it twice, ow, you're not touching it again until you see something bigger occur here. And I think that's what's going on here, is that you just don't have a lot of participation. There's obviously the crypto Twitter group who's going to be hardcore regardless, but we need more than that to really turn around price action at this point. Basically, everything I've seen in the news tells me that Bitcoin's here to stay, and the price will eventually go up. So if your time horizon is 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, this is a rounding error at this point, whether it goes down to 15 again or 12 or whatever it may be, you're not going to look back and care whether you got in here or not. If you're someone like me who's a trader, then you're much more concerned with 10, 15, 20% moves in Bitcoin because you're looking to trade that.
Bitwise's move comes amid delays in the approval process for several other ETFs, including those from WisdomTree, Valkyrie, Fidelity's Wise Origin, VanEck, BlackRock, and Invesco Galaxy. It's essential to differentiate this from Bitwise's spot BTC ETF, as the withdrawn ETF aimed to offer exposure to crypto price fluctuations without directly holding BTC.
Yeah, so for me at least, when I'm looking at Bitcoin is I do believe that we'll probably test 25,000 in the next week or two. Once that breaks, you're probably within a month of testing 20, and then I would say by year end, you're testing your 15,700 level. So we're really not that far away. I think 3, 4, 5 months, maybe early 2024 from retesting these lows. Once we get to this point, and you're already seeing it, right? So bear market bottoms, they bottom when people get burned so many times that they throw in the towel. We're not there in crypto yet, but you're starting to see where these good news pops occur, and then we see a flush. That's really hurting the psyche of the investor, and that's part of what a bear market does to break your will to make a bottom. So I think by the time we get down to these 15,000-ish lows and we break that, that should really be the culmination final dump out. Whether we get to 12, whether we get to 10, I don't know. But ultimately, I think the bottom is probably put in by early 2024 in Bitcoin. And then we'll have to see if the halving starts to have that impact where we start to see it go up. What do we see about that? But yeah, I think that for me is really important. And then if we look at the S&P here, the S&P 500 is still relatively near its highs, right? So here's your 2022 highs in October, and look at the rally we've been on. But one thing I've noticed is that we had a bigger pullback here. We still have a higher low. So here was your last low. This is still technically higher. So that's bullish. But my guess is we're going to start to roll over and actually make a lower low. And I expect the stock market to start to pan lower as well. And actually, I think by the second quarter of 2024, we'll be at these lows in October. And that's really where that culmination of the Bitcoin lows and the stock market lows could come together.
And that concludes an insightful episode of Money Talks. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more daily updates. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're here to empower you on your financial journey. Until next time, happy investing.